Hey, what is up everybody? It's Axel here for AnimeUproar, and today I will be discussing everything that we know about the King of Curses, Ryomen Sukuna. While much of his character is still shrouded in mystery, there is definitely still quite a lot to talk about when it comes to this demonic tattooed Machamp, and I, for one, can't wait to get into it. If you enjoy this video and want to see more Jujutsu Kaisen content on this channel, be sure to leave a like and maybe consider leaving a comment with who you'd like to see me talk about next. It'll only take a second, but it's a huge help for the channel. And hey, if you haven't subscribed to AnimeUproar, make this the video that you subscribe, and be sure to click that bell to select all notifications. You can also follow AnimeUproar on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar, or you can follow myself at AxelBeats. Speaking of which, since we had so many commenters who seemed confused in the last video, I just want to remind everyone who I am and why I'm here. My name is Axel, and I've been an editor on AnimeUproar for a few years now, and when they started getting bombarded with requests to cover Jujutsu Kaisen on their channel, they asked me to step in and start making videos, since they're already covering so many other series, and their plates are so full as it is. So hopefully you enjoy the content. Finally, this video will contain Jujutsu Kaisen manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution, you have been warned. So obviously we are introduced to Sukuna almost immediately in the story, however his own story begins 1,000 years ago. This era was known as the Golden Age of Jujutsu Sorcery, and among all of the sorcerers, Sukuna was by far the most powerful. This was to the point that despite being human, he was often called an imaginary demon. That being said, even though he is human, in the flashback that we see, or the legend that Gojo reveals to us, we see him standing as this four-eyed, four-armed monster surrounded by flames. Which, you know, not the most human-looking dude I've ever seen. This man was an absolute force of nature though, and it took a large group of other sorcerers banding together to fight at their absolute best to take him down. However, death was far from the end for Sukuna. Because he had such a wealth of cursed energy, upon his death he transformed into a curse himself. This is kind of interesting because Geto's goal is to eliminate normal humans so that only sorcerers remain. This is because sorcerers have better control over their cursed energy, and when they die they're less likely to become curses themselves. So it's a little bit strange that one of the people who debatably was the strongest curse energy sorcerer in history, excluding Gojo and maybe a few other cases, would become a curse himself. Regardless, in order to contain this powerful curse, the 20 fingers which it was divided between were sealed away as cursed objects. However, their power would continue to grow over time, and by the time that Yuji's story begins, the seals are beginning to weaken. Of course, the occult members would completely unseal one finger and Yuji would go on to eat that, and with some of Sukuna's energy now being released, the rest of the fingers start to resonate and more rapidly draw in the curses around them. By this point in the manga, we've seen Yuji eat about 15 fingers, meaning there are only a few left. However, each time he does, Sukuna becomes all that much more powerful within him, and his takeovers become harder and harder to suppress. I feel like I have to bring up the elephant in the room when we talk about Sukuna's curse and his 20 fingers, and that is, what happened to the rest of his body? Is it the case that only the fingers remain, or is the rest of his body out there somewhere as well, just waiting to be reunited with them? It's definitely something I'm super curious about, as the idea of only being fingers is a little bit strange to me. Regardless of if there is more to his body or not though, one thing is for sure, and that's that we're getting dangerously close to Yuji having all 20 of them together. And that means they have to reach a resolution about what to actually do with him. Will he be executed as planned, or will he somehow be saved? Speaking of reasons to execute Yuji though, let's talk about some of Sukuna's abilities and powers and try to figure out why everyone's so terrified of his revival. Firstly, just on a base level, we can pretty clearly see that he has some incredible mastery of cursed energy, and he can use it both offensively and for healing. We've seen him grow limbs back on Yuji's body, we've seen him bring Yuji back to life, and much more. Keep in mind, when we saw him doing these things, he only had a few fingers, just a fraction of his full power. And on top of that, he was in Yuji's body rather than his own. And because of that, it's just kind of hard to imagine what he would be able to do at his full strength. It really makes you wonder what it must have taken to defeat the original Sukuna in the first place if he can just heal things so easily. Even in terms of the limited power that he has, it can be a little bit difficult to gauge Sukuna. We've only seen him fight a handful of times, but in most cases the fights we have are over in a flash. Specifically, we can see him ending fights with the Finger Bearer and Yuji without really seeing what happens. A moment passes, and in both cases, they just get sliced apart with no real visual cues, or at least very minimal. We also see him killing the twins, Nanako and Mimiko, without any effort at all, and even against extremely powerful curses and cursed users like Jogo, Mahito, and Shigemo, Sukuna just toys with them. He straight up makes a game of Jogo, and Shigemo is cut in half without him even knowing. The gap between Sukuna and the others is immeasurable. We've only really seen 2 fights involving Sukuna that demonstrated any real sense of struggle or effort being exerted. Firstly, with his 10-second fight with Gojo at the start of the story, and here we see Gojo treating Sukuna the same way that Sukuna treated Jogo, even sitting on him at one point after Sukuna's attack. But again, this is Sukuna with one finger, and we don't really know how much he's being limited in this state. Of course, if you ask Gojo, it's pretty obvious who would win the fight though, even if Sukuna was fully revived. And then we have his fight with Mahoraga. This wasn't exactly a close fight, however it did take some serious thinking on Sukuna's part. Mahoraga is a Shikigami summoned by Megumi, and its key strength is adaptability. Basically, if any attack hits him and hurts him, he will adapt to become more or less immune to it going forward. To this, Sukuna opens his domain and unleashes a barrage of attacks on the Shikigami until it's pretty much at its limits, and before he can begin healing, Sukuna launches a massive fireball to eliminate the monster. So in general, we can probably place Sukuna in the top 2, if not 3 strongest characters in the series. And the interesting part of this is that despite this power, his abilities are very simple. In a series where characters can summon these 10 Shadow Shikigami, or control robots remotely, or be a panda, it seems that the more simple and easy to understand an ability is, the more powerful it is. Todo can clap to swap places, Gojo can push and pull things, and Sukuna can cut things. At the core of Sukuna's abilities is just that, cutting. Specifically, he's able to do it in 2 varieties though, Dismantle, which is used to cut inanimate objects, and Cleave, which takes into account the target's level of cursed energy and toughness before slashing into them to ensure that they can be destroyed in one cut. These are more useful when combined with his domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine. This creates a 200-meter radius in which Sukuna can create this never-ending barrage of these 2 slices until his target, or just everything around him, is completely destroyed. The reason Sukuna's domain is so large when compared to others in the series is because he doesn't create a barrier around it. By giving his opponents the ability to escape, he drastically increases the range and power of his own domain. And if you want more information on how domains work in general, be sure to check out our last video discussing them. Finally, while Sukuna's abilities are supposed to be based on slashes, he also uses a fire attack when he's fighting Mahoraga and Jogo. He explains to Jogo that a curse wouldn't know about this ability, but he wouldn't bother explaining further. So it seems like there might be some kind of special ability which allows especially powerful Jujutsu sorcerers to possibly unlock a second trait. This is something I would love to see expanded on if that's the case, especially for characters like Todo who, I guess we could say could use a hand when it comes to his own clapping ability now. Finally, the last thing we have to talk about in regards to Sukuna is his binding vow. There are a ton of questions when it comes to this man, but above all else, I am more curious about this than anything. When Itadori died early in the series, he was brought to Sukuna's realm within himself. Here, Sukuna agrees to revive Yuji if he abides by 2 conditions. Of course, Yuji rejects this, and instead they decide to have a fight to the death. If Yuji can manage to win, he'll be revived with no vow, no conditions. And if he loses, oh, there goes his head. Huh. I guess it was chopped off before he could even finish that thought. Well, you know what they say, don't make deals with 1,000-year-old curses because they'll surprise attack you and cut your head in half. A very specific piece of wisdom, but very valuable nonetheless. Anyways, having won their wager, Sukuna imposes these conditions. Firstly, he is able to take control of Yuji for a full minute at a period of his choosing. That being said, he did originally make a promise that he wouldn't kill anyone while he was in control, but this was part of the original deal that was shot down by Yuji before they made the bet on fighting to the death, so who knows if Sukuna will uphold that stipulation. And second, the condition is that Yuji will completely forget about making this binding vow. This is the ultimate Chekhov's gun. We know it's going to happen, but we just don't know when or why Sukuna will cash this in, but it will be something huge when he does. So now I have a question for all of you. What do you think Sukuna wants with this 1 minute? If he doesn't mind not killing people, we can rule out eliminating people like Gojo or any other possible threats. So there has to be something left that we still don't know about, possibly a way to free himself once all 20 fingers have been gathered. But that is just about everything we have now about the King of the Curses Sukuna so far. He is definitely up there with some of the coolest characters in the series in my opinion. Probably my third or fourth favorite, but what do you guys think about him? And do you think he can really use more than one curse trait? If so, that could be a real game changer. If you enjoyed this Jujutsu Kaisen video and want to see more, please leave a like, and if you're new to AnimeUproar, remember to subscribe and ring the bell. By selecting all notifications, you can help guarantee that you will not miss any videos in the future. That being said, like I mentioned earlier, we have a video discussing domain expansion, which we released earlier on in the week, and we also have a video talking about Gojo's powers, so if you want to go check those out, you definitely can. And of course, you can follow AnimeUproar at AnimeUproar on Twitter and Instagram, or you can follow myself at AxelBeats. I want to give a big thank you to the Patron Squad over on Patreon who help make videos like this possible. First and foremost, I want to thank the patron of legend, the one acknowledged by Lord Twigo himself, Alpha Sigma, and the 1-tier patrons, the ones who stand atop all clans: Ingrata, Patehefa, Aljatal, Dr. Cortman, The Toasted Chi, Emperor Otaku, Spidey Life Tanel, Tungsten Tarkus, Baked Buddhist, Cody Hebert, and Monkey D. Quilly. And of course our pro hero patrons, the one and only Gilgamesh, the red-haired Raven, Angel Cruz, Anatoly Kazatsky, Very Gucci, Alicia Actor, Bonnie Parks, Hinokami and Water, Joanne Garcia, Ted No Ted, Fatboy Games, Corey McGowan, Metal Mama, Deadly Saint, and Soul Rise Slice and Dice. Thank you all so much. If you do enjoy the work on this channel, you can go over to patreon.com/AnimeUproar and support the channel for as little as $1 a month. If you do so, you will get your name featured in future videos alongside these amazing people right here. And of course, you'll also get access to the AnimeUproar exclusive Patreon Discord where we talk about anime, life, and of course, dank memes. So check out patreon.com/AnimeUproar, link in the description if you're interested. Thanks again, and until next time, stay excellent.